Hello. Welcome to another course for the Miraf SongBook program. In today's episode, we will look at the main screen of the program and go over all the functions and options available on the home page. The initial screen itself is divided into several parts. On this left side, there is a list of your databases, where you can select and switch between your songs. Here, we have an alphabetical list that allows us to quickly search for songs. In the middle section, you can see the current chords for a selected song. So, for example, if I set up a song, you'll see the chords appear here. If I click on a chord, it will show up, and I can even play it by clicking on it. In this section, we have the song we are currently working with, and on the right side, we have some control panels. At the top is the program's menu, which contains all the important functions, as well as another menu with the most commonly used features that we frequently need. At the bottom, we have some program settings and options for switching between different modes. Now let's dive into the details. I have a database here with 16 songs, and I can switch between songs individually like this. In this section, if I click on a letter, it will show me all the songs starting with that letter. For instance, if I click on G, I see all the songs that begin with G. You can see that this row is now highlighted in yellow, which means that no song is currently selected. But if I click on any song, you'll notice that the color changes and the song is displayed. This makes it very easy to sort through and select songs from your database. You can show or hide this panel using the A to Z icon. When I click it, the panel hides or appears. In this section, we have a quick search bar. I'll now turn off the filter with this icon, and you can see that all the songs are displayed. If I start typing any text into this field, it will search for songs matching that text. For example, if I type TR, it will display all songs starting with TR. Or if I type S, I see all the songs starting with S. If I want to find a specific song, like Good Sport, I type Good, and you'll see that all songs containing the word Good are displayed. You can turn off this filter with the icon, and all the songs will be shown again. If I include an asterisk in the text, it means that the search isn't limited to the start of a word but looks for the text anywhere in the word. So, if I enter man, it will show everything that contains man. In this part, you can choose how to search the database. I can search by title, artist, list, or even search for attached audio files, such as capo or MIDI files. So, for example, if I have the search set to title, it will search by that column. If I scroll through the database, you'll see additional columns that the database contains, and we will cover those when we talk about adding and editing songs. For now, I'll mention that each song has an ID, the artist's name, and a list. The list is a subset of the database, so I can create lists for just country songs, rock songs, or metal songs, and then I can easily select a specific subset of the database. Additionally, on this page, we have these plus and minus buttons that adjust the panel, allowing it to move left or right. This is useful if you are using the program on a tablet, as it can be difficult to slide these sliders with one finger, but with these buttons, it's much easier. Of course, you can also do this with a mouse. You can expand and enlarge the database section, and then you'll see everything related to that specific database. I'll shrink it back down. In this section, you can also see the version of your database and how many songs are currently in the database. If I filter songs starting with T, you'll see that I currently have 4 songs, and the number automatically updates. It always shows how many songs are in the database and how many match the selected filter. There's also a Search Without Control button, which allows you to switch songs by clicking without holding the Control key on the keyboard. If you hold the Control key, you can select multiple songs at once. But if you don't want to hold the Control key and would rather select songs just by clicking, this option allows you to do that. You can also select blocks of songs by clicking one song, holding the Shift key, and clicking another song further down the list, which will select multiple songs. So with Control and Shift, you can select different combinations. You can also adjust the font size for the database. Right now, I have it set to +10, but you can choose different numbers to make the text larger and easier to read. This icon for the virtual keyboard means that in the program, you can set up your own virtual keyboard if you prefer not to type on a physical one. Instead, you can click on the virtual keyboard, and if you set the path to the .x file, the virtual keyboard will open within the program. There is also a button for adding songs to a playlist, which we'll cover in a separate chapter about playlists, and this New Filter button that selects only songs marked as new. You can mark any song as new if you are just starting to work with it, and with this icon, you can filter to display only new songs. I'll now select all the songs again and look at this panel. As I mentioned earlier, here is the list of chords used in the currently selected song. I can also quickly select any chord, even if it's not in the song. For instance, if I type F, the F chord will appear, and I can play it. Or let's try chord G. So, this is a quick chord finder. And this is the list of chords present in the selected song. At the bottom, we have several modes. The first is practice mode, which is the mode we use to play and practice songs. Next, we have edit mode, which allows us to edit songs, and this will have its own chapter since there are many options for editing and creating songs. Another option is your notes. I've written down some notes, and you can save them using this button. This note is not for a specific song, but applies to the entire program, so it works for all databases and all songs. It's a general note for the whole program. With this icon, you can choose a font for the selected text. So for example, I'll highlight this. I'll select a bold font, adjust the size, and maybe change the color. You can see that it changed color. So, you can color code your notes and adjust the font size. Here, you have an icon to copy to clipboard, another one to paste from clipboard or select all. This icon lets you undo a step in case you make a mistake in your notes. These small icons allow you to jump to the beginning or end of the text. Next, we have the print module, where you can preview songs before printing. We'll also talk about this module in more detail. Lastly, we have karaoke, which will be covered in its own chapter. I'll now switch back to practice mode, and we'll describe other parts of the program. There are two volume sliders, one for the overall volume and one specifically for the program's volume. You can adjust them with the slider, or use the mute button to mute the respective slider. On the right panel, we have several control buttons. First, we'll start with this full screen icon. When you click it, the program switches to full screen mode. You can exit full screen either by clicking the same icon on this floating panel or by pressing the F key. Now I'll go back, and here we have several options for how to display the song. This first icon sets the zoom to 100%. So it shows the song at its full size without any scaling. This icon displays the song to fit the whole page, calculating whether to fit it horizontally or vertically, showing the song on the entire page. This icon adjusts the zoom to fit the width, and this one adjusts it to fit the height. I'll now switch to one column so you can see the difference. When I click this icon, it shows the entire song by height. When I click this one, it fits the song by width. You can scroll through the song either by using this slider or by scrolling with your mouse wheel. You can also zoom in and out of the song using these zoom plus and zoom minus icons. So as I click, I can increase or decrease the size to any level. There's also a detailed slider, allowing you to zoom the song from as small as 20% to as large as 300%. Another feature we have here is automatic scrolling of the text. I'll zoom the song to full width and show you the automatic scroll modes. The first one is basic auto scroll, which uses the speed you set here. So now, I'll set the speed to 100, and when I start the auto scroll, the song will begin to scroll at that speed. If I want to restart from the beginning, I click the same icon again. If I want to stop, I click the stop icon. We'll also see that all these functions can be controlled with keyboard shortcuts or remotely, for example, via MIDI or by sending instructions, but we'll discuss that in future lessons. Another option is automatic scrolling combined with your audio track, so it automatically starts scrolling the text and simultaneously plays your attached audio file. The next option for automatic scrolling adjusts based on the length of your MP3 or audio file. You can attach an audio file to each song, and the automatic scrolling will be timed to the length of that file. For instance, if the song lasts 3 minutes, the auto scroll will be spread evenly to last exactly 3 minutes. By clicking this icon, you'll start the auto scroll and the song playback, not according to the set time here, but according to the length of the song. So, I'll start it again, song playback begins, and the text scrolls. As you can see, it's a bit slower than before. You can also set the time in seconds for how long the automatic scroll should take for each song. You have a third option, where you can specify this time directly when editing the song. We'll show that later. When you use this option, auto scroll will begin according to the set time, and the song playback will start. The last option starts the automatic scroll based only on the set time, without playing the audio file, so the text scrolls without the song playing. The last icon turns off auto scrolling. So, there are several options for automatic scrolling. This icon is for launching predefined actions, which we'll discuss later. This icon toggles the metronome on and off. I'll turn it on now, and the metronome starts. Here, I can set the metronome's speed, and of course, we'll go over the details of its settings later in the course. Lastly, we have these icons to choose whether to display the song in a single column, like this, or in 2 columns, like this, where the song splits into 2 columns. Or we can display 2 columns only when the text doesn't fit on the page, causing it to wrap onto the next page. So, there are 3 options for how to split the song. Now, let's quickly look at this top menu. In the Program tab, we have Program Settings, Backup Settings, Important Links, Keyboard Shortcuts, Version Checks, and so on. We'll describe these in detail later. In this tab, we have everything related to databases, exports, imports, running checks, deleting, creating databases, batch operations, and so on. In this tab, we have everything related to a single song, song exports, imports, printing, deleting, saving, and so on. This tab covers everything related to playlists. This tab lets you customize each song's settings, such as appearance, colors, headers, footers, sizes, and so on. In this tab, We cover everything related to transposition and music theory, and the last tab contains functions for program control, automatic scrolling, playing MIDI or audio files, working with chords, and controlling the metronome. Finally, let's take a look at the top panel. I also want to mention that if you hover over any icon here, a description will appear explaining what the icon does, so you don't have to search through the manual for each function. It's written next to every icon. So, this icon saves your database. When you make any changes to the database, you save it with this icon. Here, you have a list of databases that you can expand. Right now, I see I only have one database, but you can create as many databases as you want and switch between them. You do that with this icon. This icon toggles between the database and the playlist. You can either turn on the playlist or turn on the database. We'll talk more about this later. You can also choose to display both a column for the database and a column for playlists. Here, you can add a new song to the program, or you can edit an existing song already saved in the database. These are the search buttons, where you can search within the database using various parameters, by artist name, capo settings, appearance, MIDI settings, and so on. You have many options for searching. This icon finds the first occurrence, this one jumps to the next occurrence in the search, and this one closes the search module. Here, you can turn on filters. As I mentioned, I'll expand the database, and here I see a filter list. I can change this song's filter to, say, country. You see it changed, and I can filter the list to show only the songs marked as country. So you can see, it filtered down to just that one song. Or, I can select songs marked as my band. This filter list is a subset of the database, where you can perform more detailed selections from the database. This button switches between different appearances. You can create a variety of appearances in the program and switch between them easily. For example, I can change the appearance like this and continue working on the same song, but with different looks each time. We'll discuss this in more detail later. This icon enables or disables the capo if a capo setting is saved for the song. These buttons are important because they handle temporary transpositions. Right now, this song is in C major, and I can transpose it up or down by a half step using these buttons. Or, I can reset it to the original key with this Transpose to Original button. If I need to transpose directly to a specific key without stepping through each one, I can select it here and transpose directly to, say, A major or E major. This allows for quick transposing. This transposition is not permanent, it's temporary. It lasts until you switch to a different song. On the right, there are red plus and minus buttons for permanent transposition. When you transpose with these, the transposition is saved, and the next time you open the song, it will remember the transposition. We'll go over this in more detail in the Edit module. This button reloads the song, so if you've made changes or want to refresh it, you can do so with this button. Here, you can print the selected song or switch to the batch printing module, where you can choose multiple songs and make adjustments before printing. Here, you set a delayed start. I'll switch the song to a single column, enlarge it a bit, and set a 2-second delay. When I start the automatic scrolling, it will wait for the 2 seconds of set, and then the scrolling will begin. You can see the countdown below, and now the song starts scrolling automatically. You can set this from 1 to 180 seconds. If it's set to 0, the song will start scrolling automatically without delay. This button plays the attached songs. For each song in the program, you can attach an audio file, so if I click now, the song will start playing. I can pause or resume it, or stop the song altogether. This icon opens the effects player, which we will cover in the next video courses. It's one of the most important modules in the program. As mentioned, you can attach an audio file to each song, as well as an external file, like a PDF document. This icon opens the attached audio file in the default player associated with that audio format, so the program opens it in Windows Media Player. If I had attached an external file to the song, this second icon would open that external file. Next, there are two icons related to karaoke, which we'll cover in a separate course. You can also set the program to open your preferred sheet music editor, where you write your sheet music. You configure the path to this program in the settings. And then when you click this icon, it will open your music editor or any other program you've set. This icon, Show Chords, hides or shows the panel displaying the currently set chords. You can toggle it on or off as needed. This icon opens the fretboard and scale module, which we will discuss in more detail later. You can also rate songs here from 1 to 5, or disable the rating system. If I set a rating, you'll see the corresponding number of stars. For example, I'll give this song a rating of 5, and you can see it now has a rating of 5 stars. This icon toggles the floating panel, which we will also discuss in a separate video course. You can customize this floating panel by adding your own icons, making the program easier to control, for instance, on a tablet or in full screen mode where only this panel is visible. If you don't want the panel, you can hide it with this icon. There's also an important tab for working with the capo, where I can set which fret the capo is placed on. I'll now return the song to the original key. For example, if I set the capo on the 3rd fret, you'll see that the transposition happens automatically, and the chords are adjusted as if the capo were on the 3rd fret. You can easily work with this. If I want to temporarily disable the capo, I click this icon to turn it off, and the original key is restored. We've already discussed these buttons, which handle permanent transposition. The playback icons here are related to MIDI playback because each song can also have an attached MIDI file. We'll cover this in a separate video course, and here you activate your MIDI player. So, we've now gone through this initial program window. Finally, I'll point out that the database is highlighted in red, indicating it hasn't been saved yet. So, I can click this Save button, and the database will be saved. Whenever the database is red, it means there are unsaved changes or ongoing work. The last thing I will mention is that when I double-click on the menu, it splits into 2 rows, and if I double-click again, it goes back to 1 row. Thank you for watching and goodbye.